Welcome to FluteTube and happy Friday. Today I'm going to give you a practice tool that is called the Big 10 Daily Exercises. These are 10 exercises I inherited from a teacher, Brad Garner. I studied with him at Cincinnati College-Conservatory of Music. He had a large studio there, and he also had a large studio in the Juilliard pre-college division. And he had, especially his pre-college students, do these Big 10 daily exercises. They're a great way to start your practice, and if you want something that's really boiled down to the essentials to get warmed up and get your practice routine going each day, this is a great way to do it. You might want to try this out for a month or two or a year, or possibly you'll adopt it and keep it for good when you do your practice routine. There are elements of it that I am constantly using in my teaching. I've used some of these exercises already in FluteTube episodes. I'll talk about those and provide links as we come across them today. These are great preparatory technique exercises to do before you launch yourself or your students into longer, more complicated technical exercises. They're also a great way to cover your bases very quickly if you want to get going with your practice for the day, but you want to hit a few essential parts of your technique before you get into repertoire. I'm going to list these Big 10 daily exercises for you and show just snippets so you know what I'm talking about. The first one is major scales for 2 octaves. We go up through the circle of fifths, C, G, D, A, E, B. Then we do major and minor arpeggios for 2 octaves. Again, moving through the keys in the same order, C, G, D, A. My theory is that Brad Garner had us move up through sharps in the circle of fifths rather than down through flats because band instruments so often focus in flats. It's a good idea with all of these exercises to mix up how you approach them. Maybe sometimes do them slurred, sometimes do them tongued, sometimes do them partly slurred. Of course, fool around with the tempo, whether you want to go slower or faster, as fast as possible, slow but completely perfect. Be creative with how you approach these. The third exercise is to hit your dominant 7th arpeggios. Very similar format to the scales, starting on C, then G, then D, then so on. And your diminished 7th arpeggios. And then we hit a chromatic scale for 3 octaves. You could change from practicing in duplets versus triplets sometimes, or tongued versus articulated. Number 5 sounds fairly complicated. Number 5 is scalar quintachords with a big edgy sound. Well, don't get too distraught by saying scalar quintachords. He's talking about TNG number 1 and possibly number 2 if you want to practice numbers 1 and 2. These are scalar quintachords. Number 6 is a double tonguing exercise. I put this in its own episode a long time ago. It's called the best double tonguing exercise for flute, and I'll link to it. And then similarly, I gave you a vibrato exercise long ago in an episode called My Vibrato Secrets. That is exercise number 7. Number 8 is applying vibrato. It's playing a little tune that we sometimes call Goin Home. It's also a tune that's featured in Dvorak's Symphony from the New World. You've probably heard it before. It's a way to test out your slow, measured, beautiful vibrato. Be sure that you're connecting the things that you worked on in the vibrato exercise with playing actual music. Numbers 9 and 10 similarly apply your double tonguing. So we're going from doing a double tonguing exercise to playing music where you will implement your tonguing. Number 9 is to play the Bach C major sonata second movement. This is Bach BWV 1033, and as I like to do, I will put an IMSLP link in this video description so that you can go and get a free copy of this if you want to. It's in the public domain. When I practice the Bach, unlike when I perform it, I do it all tongued. In performance, I definitely add some slurs. It helps with phrasing, but for the sake of working on your double tonguing, I try to do as much phrasing as I can, but all tongued. And the final exercise is quite advanced. It's playing Carnival of the Animals by Saint-Saëns, the variation that's for flute, Volière, which is aviary. Surprise, you're playing the flute, and once again, we are imitating birds. For the episode today, I initially was going to just tell you that I use this Bach movement and the Volière variation from Saint-Saëns to work on double tonguing. These are really advanced double tonguing exercises that are great to do. You're applying what you've worked on to music. Then as I was preparing to record this episode, I realized that I really should introduce you to the entire Big 10 daily exercises because this is a very optimized, quick routine to hit the fundamentals that you need in your day. I typically spend more time on technique exercises and branch out into more complicated, sophisticated technical exercises, but if I have very limited time to practice and I want to get to the essentials, I still come back to this sometimes because it goes straight to the core of the things we really need to be able to do well. If you have pre-college students who are at an advanced level or early college students who could use some remedial work on scales, arpeggios, dominant seventh chords, vibrato, tonguing, all these things, this is a great place to take them. I hope you're looking forward to using this to organize either your own or some students' practice time a little more efficiently. If you're glad to at least know about this routine and possibly give it a try, please like this video, subscribe if you haven't yet. It does help my channel. Next week, I will go into much more depth regarding the Saint-Saëns excerpt. Today, I've only talked about the Bach and the Saint-Saëns in terms of practicing double tonguing, but even when I'm practicing them as part of this Big 10 daily exercises routine, I like to treat them as musically as possible, and there are a lot of details to how I approach the Saint-Saëns that I want to talk about. It's a very important orchestral excerpt, and there was one time that it actually did make a huge difference in some of my life opportunities. I'll tell you about that next week. Happy Big 10 daily exercises practicing.